Fridays, this guy joins us. Man, you are all over the world, Michael Shure, with these conversations you have with Trump supporters, and you do it in a way that is really provocative and interesting. I know you probably don't want to be known for this, but it's still kind of a cool little side thing. He's a guy who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. How about it for Michael Shure, everyone?
If you want to see Mark's Emmys, just go to the sports book at Caesar's Palace. Yeah. I mean, these. It's not that I don't want to be doing it. It's that there's, there are smarter things to be doing.
Right. That's my point. I mean, you're a guy with tremendous depth when it comes to politics, and this is sort of. But to be fair,
the light. It really does tell a story, which and it's clearly an important story because it elected a president, and it may again. So
exactly, Albert, play a little bit of the great Michael Shure talking to a couple of these people about Donald Trump, and I think this is in the context of his legal issues and whether they would the outcome of his trials would in any way affect their disposition toward voting for him. Go ahead, Albert.
If he's convicted on any of those indictments, does that change your support for him?
Absolutely not, because when you look at why they're attacking him, and when you look at the other side as well, and how Hunter Biden and the Clintons, I could name others, but
ma'am, Hunter Biden indicted as well, and also not the president.
Correct, but also they know how to play the game, and so do we. So,
if he's convicted on any of these 91 indictments, would that change your mind at all?
No, absolutely not. This is political persecution. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it.
If Donald Trump is convicted for what he's been indicted for, would he lose your support?
That's a hard question to ask.
Come back to you.
No, he would not lose my support. I think that what we're seeing right now is illegitimate lawfare being waged in the country. I don't think that we are seeing a legitimate trial play out. All of these charges are being waged against Donald Trump, but what we see is similar charges being brought against Biden and his family, his dealings with China, Ukraine, and other countries, Hunter Biden and his sketchy past.
As an innocent man, if he's convicted of any of these 91 indictments, does that change?
No. What's going on right now legally is a sham. I mean, have you seen the latest of what's coming out in Atlanta with the DA and her boyfriend? I mean, it's all corruption. The elite simply want all the money, all the power, and the rest of us are just pawns.
All right, that's good. But it's just interesting that Donald Trump, and this is his the sleight of hand that's bizarre to me. He, as that guy has sort of suggested, doesn't come out as one of the elite. It's weird. Like, this guy couldn't talk about the elite; they're getting what they want when everyone that Donald Trump surrounds himself with and that they populated his administration with the last time, they're part of that elite, I think, arguably.
Yeah, and not to mention, that they go to the Hunter Biden thing, and one person said, "What about the charges against Joe Biden?" Later on, I don't know if it's in that clip that we just saw or not, but I say there are no charges against Joe Biden, and then they say, "Well, there should be," right? Well, but there aren't. So there is this disconnect from that, and the idea that whatever is happening against the other side is perfectly legitimate, right? So the charges and allegations, let's say, against Biden are those should be taken seriously. What shouldn't be taken seriously is anything against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I have no idea how Michael keeps a sane mind after speaking with these people. But it's interesting. Thank you, Walnut Creek Adult Softball. But I will say this about the work you do. And then I want to move on because I do want to talk about Fani Willis, and I want to talk about this new poll in the swing states. But the work you do it very deftly because you do push back on them, but you don't push back in a hostile way, and you don't say, well, that's ridiculous, or don't you see the contradiction? You suggest it in all of these ways. That has to be increasingly challenging, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, these are people who like combat, and I'm somebody who doesn't generally, but also you're not going to get what you want getting combative with them. You'll get something, but you're not going to get what I want, which is to sort of shine a light onto what sort of moves these people. Even every time I ask somebody about Donald Trump and the charges against him and the convictions and the indictments and all of that, I always say, he's an innocent man right now, but if he's convicted on any of these 91 charges, would that change you? So you're right. You're showing something that they want to hear, which is that he is innocent.
I see.
So it becomes a safe place for them to talk about what it is that they want to talk about. I've gotten used to doing it that way now, and it works. So
it works, and it's become. I mean, I'm seeing it everywhere. It was on MSNBC the other night. It's been. It's on CNN. I mean, in other words, this stuff, it's on TYT. That's the dedicated place where all this stuff, you can watch it in long form and it really breathes and you really get a feel for it in the TYT videos. But I'm just suggesting that your work, which again is, the real body of work you have is as a political analyst and reporter, and this is certainly, kind of adjunct category.
Yeah.
But
it's immersion makes you better at anything you do. So I've now been sort of embedded with these people several times, many times, and it does, it lets you understand what's going on out there, but you can't be fooled by it either.
Michael, have you had any social interactions with any of these people away from the rally? Do you ever say, hey, when the rally's done, you want to go get a cocktail?
You saw those two ladies there? No,
that's what made me ask.
No. As a matter of fact, there's one guy who I interviewed. He and his wife in Iowa, who, he was very, very in the Trump camp, but he was really nice and he was reasoned about it. And it was a time when I was asking them what their favorite books and movies are, and very few of them could come up with a book or a movie, which was surprising. But he said The Princess Bride, and so did his wife. They were, and so I talked to them for a while, and they were very Iowa nice. And then he asked for my information. He sent me a text about some places to eat in the neighborhood. And then he said, whenever you're in town, come by the farm and we'll have a toddy, whether it's summer or not. And we can talk about anything but politics. So, I mean,
wow, that's very cool, man. I love hearing that.
His name's Ed. And by the way, I would love to go to Ed's and
sure.
A toddy.
I mean, a lot of these people are nice people. They are wildly misguided and, in the thrall of this guy in this cultish way. But, and they're also feeling left out. I think this is what we can, pivot and on this. Yeah. They're feeling left out of the political process. They're feeling as though their concerns are not being represented by this is real or imagined. This is their feeling, I think.
Yeah, imagine, because never before have they been more part of the process en masse. I mean, I'm not talking about Ed and the toddy on the farm, but I'm talking about like this. These voices have not been a part of the political conversation in any greater way than they are now, and so their gripes are gone.
So, to this poll, this is in the swing states, and the CNN poll shows former President Donald Trump narrowly ahead of President Joe Biden. The poll highlighting voters' conflicted feelings about both of these guys. Majorities of Democrats and Republicans say they'd be satisfied if their party's candidate won. There also, though, at the same time, is a sizable majority, a sizable minority, I should say, of these same polled people who say, I wish there was another option besides Trump or Biden. 49% of registered voters say they would back Trump if an election between the two were held today, while 45% support Biden. 5% say they'd vote for someone else. So those are similar numbers to the fall numbers in that same demographic group, So nothing has really changed. It's interesting, and I thought this is instructive from your video, that specific video that we just saw. Nothing has changed even as his legal travails change. So even as Trump has more of this legal stuff stick to him, if you want to think of it that way, it doesn't change people's disposition toward voting.
Right. We're talking when we're there, and it's important to point this out. We're not just talking to Republican voters out to see, a candidate on the stump. We're talking to people who are, dyed-in-the-wool devotees of this man, and whether you want to call it a cult or not, there is certainly something Grateful Dead-like about it. I mean, these people follow him from appearance to appearance, and these are the people who are not going to waver. They're going to stand by him. There exists certainly a group of Republicans, and a sizable group of Republicans, who will say that they don't want to vote for Donald Trump, and if he's convicted, they don't want to deal with that kind of a candidate or a president. So there's a difference. It may be subtle, but it does, the people I speak to are unmoved by it. And these numbers haven't moved, though there hasn't been tremendous amount that has happened since the last poll, which was late last year, a similar poll, that has happened legally. I mean, it's just gone on. And one thing, I think, if you're President Biden and his campaign, I think you're encouraged by the fact that you haven't slipped any more. So it means that this constant campaign that Trump has been running out there on the stump, in front of everybody, on TV, getting PR, they say bad publicity is better than no publicity. He's out there and out front, and he hasn't moved up. Now, again, that's a glass half full if you're a Biden supporter. But the fact that the president hasn't really begun running for president yet, or maybe he's just starting to now, means that there's a lot of room to make up. And you looked at the national poll this week from Quinnipiac polling, and they showed that Biden's up 6% nationwide on Trump. So I think that there are glimmers of good news that come out of these polls for the president. And I think that a little bit of frustration for Trump, though he is holding steady. And I think when you're a candidate who is up by 4 points and you haven't lost that margin, you've got to be happy about that as well.
I'll get to the Georgia thing in a second, but I just still want to kick around on this poll for one more second. Nikki Haley is also showing up in this. And it's not, a big showing, but it's something. 16% say they'd be enthusiastic about her should she become the next president. But among Republican-leaning voters, her favorability rating is way behind Trump's. 31% have a favorable view of Haley, compared with 71% of Republican-leaning voters and their positive view of Trump. So she's not really relevant to the likely outcome.
Which isn't terribly surprising when you look at the results. I mean, she stood for election in the primary now twice, right? Once in Iowa, where she came in third to Ron DeSantis, who days later dropped out of the race, and once in New Hampshire, where she was within, it was thought, 3 points of the former president weeks ago, and then lost by about 11%. And people were saying, "Oh, it's a good result. That Trump only beat her by 11%." That's not. I mean, she lost by 11%. She was the only person on the ballot. So it's not surprising. She's going to go to South Carolina, her home state, and not do as well as the governor of a home state should do. And then there's going to be a reckoning in the Republican Party for a little while about what happens. I mean, I can't see any argument for Haley staying in the race if she loses badly in her own home state. I mean, where does she go from there? But she could wait it out and see what happens with some of the legal battles that the former president's fighting right now. But I don't know. I mean, the Republican Party has a split in it, but it's not 50-50.
And this is interesting, and it does lead me to my next question. Just give me the math. Says Republican strategy now is to assist RFK Jr. and Cornel West to divert votes from Biden. I don't know if that's their strategy, but it is, I think, worth noting on the Democrat side, and it may not take the form of these third-party candidates. It may take the form of just a lack of voter enthusiasm for Biden, or the Middle East being an increasing issue that divides Democrats, that Biden doesn't get the solidarity on the Democratic side that he got in 2020. Can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising he doesn't get the solidarity. He's been president. People have formed opinions about him. Trump as president is different than Trump as candidate. But again, I keep pointing to the fact that he has not, that this campaign has not begun in earnest. So the president has been able to define himself, and his campaign and his surrogates haven't been able to define the race yet as us versus them. And here's what we have done since we've been there. I mean, the president's numbers on the economy, not good in this poll, but the numbers on the economy are better. When he starts talking about it and people start pointing to that, it's going to help. Is it going to put him over? No, there's no delusion here. I mean, it's going to help, though. It's going to narrow the gap in certain places when he starts running a campaign and there are ads up there. And, again, abortion is going to be a big part of this campaign.
So that was just so well put. I do want to note one last thing on the GOP side, and then I will get to Georgia. And that is enthusiasm. The poll is saying through its results that on the Republican side, notwithstanding the people that Michael Shure speaks to, the enthusiasm is lagging a bit on the Republican side. Again, according to the poll, 63% of Republican-aligned voters say they are extremely motivated to vote in the 2024 presidential election. 63%. Well, it's down. 71% is what the results were in the fall. So it's softening. And I'm wondering, I mean, if, we talk a lot about there's not enthusiasm or the Democrats are split, but there's not a lot of enthusiasm for Trump also among the GOP. I think they hold their nose maybe and pull the lever a little more than the Democrats do, but they're beginning to lack enthusiasm over there also.
Well, I mean, I think sometimes, polls are important. I like polls, and people who are pollsters are very smart, and they're trying to adapt to the way polling is done and all of that. So tip of the hat to them. But this is just affirming of what anybody could guess, right? I mean, these are two, like a 77-year-old and an 81-year-old, two candidates who we know very well, who neither party loves the fact that this is their standard bearer right now to the nth degree. That certainly they don't love that. So yeah, of course there's going to be a little bit of lack of enthusiasm as it gets closer to the election and the lines are drawn and the other side is defined by the side you support. It's going to increase enthusiasm because a choice has to be made. But I'm not surprised at all by the fact that there's less enthusiasm. I'm a reporter. I'm less enthusiastic about covering this, right? So I think there's a malaise about this right now.
All right. Malaise is a dang word, certainly. All right. The prosecutor in the Trump Georgia case, this is a critical case, and Fani Willis now acknowledging a relationship with Nathan Wade. She says, followed a timeline that, he wasn't hired because of the relationship occurred and began after he was already working. They were working together as colleagues. Speak to the political effects. It was even noted by one of the people you spoke with, and then just speak to sort of this as a practical matter.
I can't speak to the practical matter, right? I mean, my hunch is that it probably doesn't matter, but anytime you're able to point to the prosecution, if you're the defense, and see something that is, that pushes the lines of integrity, then that's a plus for your side. But I don't know how it affects the meat of what's there. I mean, that's in evidence. Yeah, the prosecution was brought by Fani Willis. It has been organized. It has been, I think probably prosecuted in the real sense of the word by Fani Willis and her office. But it doesn't mean that any other prosecutor wouldn't be able to do it. And the evidence speaks for itself. And I think we've heard a lot of the evidence, and whether or not it implicates the president directly, we don't know till there's a trial. But I think, or the former president, I think though that, any questionability about the integrity of the other side in a legal case is important for for both sides.
Yeah, we had David Katz on, the former federal prosecutor, yesterday, and he's sort of anticipating that this is going to become something. He said, look, this isn't going to derail the trial. He said there can be all sorts of reconfigurations of who it represents the prosecution and in that office as the trial continues. I mean, it doesn't just go away because of this.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, he knows better than I, but it seems like that's really the case here. This is a case on evidence. They wouldn't have brought the case if there wasn't sufficient evidence. We as the public have heard a lot of those phone calls, a lot of we've seen a lot of the interactions over email. So I think there's reason to believe there's a solid case here, whether it's a slam dunk or not. I just don't, it doesn't help the case that this happened with Fani Willis. I don't think it derails it entirely.
Now I want you to get into the Wayback Machine as our final story, Michael. The Wayback Machine to 2018, when Kyrsten Sinema was crusading against politicians cashing in on political office. She actually introduced a bill seeking to crack down on lawmakers' use of public funds for first-class air travel, among other sort of luxuries that politicians and other lawmakers enjoy.
Well, tell me a story, Mark.
Well, apparently, Kirsten Sinema is enjoying private luxury travel. And she is, and this is what I want to get to you, she's spending, first of all, $210,000 in taxpayer funds on these private chartered air travel flights since 2020. But my question to you, and she stays at 5-star European hotels, luxury vehicles, also rented during this time, first-class airfare. She has stayed in these gorgeous, plush West Coast vineyards, all of this now spending donor money, okay?
Right.
And you can remind us, I think this is true, Michael Shure, should she decide not to run for office, and I want to ask you what her general express plans are, which way she's leaning, she can take a lot of that donor money, right? Isn't that if she's got a PAC, I think the PAC's worth $11 million. She can take every dollar of that $11 million with her, right?
Well, the PAC stays where it is, but she can take the money, the campaign funds that
the campaign
given.
funds. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah. And those funds can stay there. But I mean, it's not. She can't just go to Paris with that money. I mean, there's misuse of campaign funds or FEC laws that she would have to follow. I think as a sitting senator, it kind of blurs it a little bit, because if she's saying she's on official state business and choosing to stay where she's staying on the money, I mean, it's just unseemly. I don't know that it's illegal, but it just shows how politics is.
Oh no, it's just hypocrisy,
it's
but there's not illegal.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, as far as we know, it's not illegal, and nobody's saying that it is, or that she broke any laws. But I look, she's in the independent party must be outraged over this. She's left the Democrats. Ruben Gallego's running for that seat, and so it's going to be a situation where she's either going to divide the Democrats or not be a part of that race. And again, I don't know what her plans are. Her plans are to run for re-election for her seat, clearly, but I don't know how much time and how long she'll remain in the race.
Yeah, the deadline to file for re-election is April 8th, and she's only raised about $600,000, which seems like a lot of money, but it's not compared to
seat. It's not at all. I mean, that for House seat in a competitive race, that's not even a ton of money.
I mean, the spending, I'm going to talk more about this next week, but the spending that Kirsten Sinema has done with PAC money, it was PAC money that paid for a lot of this luxury travel, and she has $300,000 in security and all this other stuff. It's very, she's very spendy. I'll just say that.
Yeah, the PAC money is, again, like we're saying, it's really ugly. It's really hypocritical. But it's a choice she's made.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I'm glad you've made the choice to be with us today, and I always enjoy our time. So thank you so much for being here. Find Michael Shure everywhere, all over TYT and beyond. And as I say, he's showing up on MSNBC and elsewhere. So I know it won't be long before you tender your resignation, and I'm yet again. We're a launch pad. Do you see the Mark Thompson show bump you're getting, Michael?
No, it's hard. The number of people that point to that. It's you wouldn't
prepare for more.
Wouldn't be here were it not for. Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. Michael Shure, everyone. Thanks, Michael. Bye-bye. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.